Welcome back. Thank you for staying with KTN Prime. It's now time for the deliberations right here in studio as we evaluate the latest developments that have played out in the political scene. Of course, everyone is talking about the big interview held yesterday, the talk of town, all to do with the allegations that were given by the former Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Rigathi Gachagua, touching on a raft of issues, especially on the executive. I'm joined by two political minds in studio just to deduct and take a look at what some of these allegations truly mean for Kenya's political space as we move towards the 2027 general election. Allow me to introduce my guest, Wilson Sossion, nominated Member of Parliament, a man who needs no introduction. Should I say Happy New Year? It's been a while since we've seen each other.
Of course, Happy New Year. Should I also say Merry Christmas because I didn't see you before Christmas?
No problem. Karibu sana. Thank you for honoring the invite. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Equally joined by the Member of Parliament for Kajiado North, Onesmus Ngogoyo. Asante sana. Thank you for honoring the invite. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'd like to perhaps pick up this conversation with just analyzing what Kenyans will be waking up to tomorrow on Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. And of course, it's just reacting to the statements that were made yesterday by Rigathi Gachagua, touching on two individuals who he sensationally referred to as the co-president and the chief propagandist, Dennis Itumbi and Farouk Kibet. That's the paper you'll be waking up to tomorrow. Some of the revelations that were given by the former deputy president touching on Farouk Kibet, mentioning that perhaps he's the one who's pulling the strings in the government. Equally, he pointed a blaming finger on Dennis Itumbi, calling him the chief propagandist, mentioning that he's the one who coins some of this government information that is given through ministries and state departments, you know. So these are damning allegations, and perhaps you can start on that particular note. I'd like to begin with you, Wilson Sossion, because so much was said by the former deputy president. What do you make of the magnitude of what was revealed, perhaps starting with the two gentlemen who have made it to the front page of The Standard?
Yeah, thank you, Rogers. And I would like to ask you a question. What do you expect a bitter political man like Rigathi Gachagua to talk about, other than to vent and make flying statements that fly on the face of Kenya, statements without evidence at all? And turning to the headlines, I would say the splash is your story as a media house, because the former deputy president was actually your guest. And of course, looking at the way you're making the splash about the two gentlemen, I don't think it has any basis. Farouk Kibet and Dennis Itumbi, these are loyal servants of the president. And any leader will work with loyal lieutenants, people who do different things. When you talk about Farouk Kibet, has a long history with the president, having been his aiders at the constituency. They've traveled a political journey together, and they've worked together for years. And I don't think Farouk Kibet is exercising any state authority whatsoever. It doesn't. By trying to state as such, then you're trying to imply that the president is not in control, which is actually not the case. When you talk of Dennis Itumbi, I worked temporarily in government as the chief administrative secretary in the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. Sure. And I don't remember Itumbi interfering with state departments and ministries. Yes, his job cut out. And from the labor perspective where I come from, I would say these are workers who are under unfair, savage attack from a person who has been impeached on 9 grounds. And then is venting bitterness on junior workers who are working around the president. If he has any issue, deal with the president.
So it's simply a case of a bitter ex.
This is bitter. This is bitterness. Yeah, a bitter ex. And he's trying to blame everybody around and to create a co-president out of somebody we see every day. We talk to, we can interact. You know, Kenya is so open. There is nothing mysterious about the presidents. You can reach the president, you can reach anybody who is there. We can even reach Irigiji, wherever he is. So Kenya is an open society, and it is known. These are people who are walking around the president, and they're not the only one. There are many. And the authority of the Republic of Kenya is vested in the president, who took oath of office and was handed over the sword of the state. And so we don't need to vent our political anger on innocent individuals around, just like we don't need to vent on Gogoy and the others. If you are dealing with a bigger master elsewhere, deal with the master. And I think it is time we sanitize our politics, and for particularly as a labor leader and who has worked for a long time. When you choose to attack people who cannot defend themselves and people who don't have authority of any office or any infrastructure to defend themselves, it is wrong. These are people who are working loyally, and they're earning a living, and they're doing their work as assigned by their boss, whichever work that they're given. So to me, those are just but flying statements, and statements of a sheltered, politically sheltered person. Let me dare say, some of the statements that we see people make, if you are thrown out of government, either by impeachment or dismissal, then you turn out and make allegations that cannot be substantiated, and allegations that are so grave and serious. I would expect a serious Kenyan, if you are in office, make those statements while you are in office. That is one.
But there's a section of these allegations that came while he was still in office, even as you continue.
That is one. Two, allow me to finish. That is one. Two, some of them sound so criminal that they should have, I think J.B. Muturi and Gachagua should have gone first to the DCI or EACC and record a conscience statement. That is when we know that they're serious. And append their signatures. You don't just choose a talk show like the way we are here and then make very serious statements. Surely, we are a country of the rule of law and constitutional order. And institutions were created to superintend the country. EACC to deal with matters corruption, DCI to deal with matters criminal. If they could not do it during their lives when they were in government, now they're out of government, we should have seen them recording those statements so that then we take those statements seriously. Otherwise, we take it as ordinary political bitterness flying on the face of Kenyans. And I'm trying to deconstruct the president and the presidency and the work of the president. And to me, it is inconsequential. Kenya will move on. The president is focused in delivering the better agenda and will go around the country mobilizing the citizens and meeting people around the 5 pillars from agriculture, MSME, ICT, housing, UHC, and others, including electricity infrastructure and roads, is the biggest public participation process. And if you look at the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza from the labor perspective, it is a social democracy agenda that will eventually bring social equality and ensure economic equity among the people. Very few presidents will be bold to choose such an agenda. And we know cartels of corruption who have thrived in the real estate, who have thrived in the medical industry, who have thrived in the communication space, who have been doing business with farmers, and we have seen in the sugar industry. How comes all of a sudden we have got surplus sugar? Unlike when you're importing sugar during Moi, Kibaki, and Uhuru, within 2
Fair
years,
point, fair point.
sugar. So I think
Okay.
the president is bold, and this is one president who is so revolutionary. And the agenda we can see, the indicators are clear.
All right.
That he's pro the common man, and eventually there will be breach of social and economic equality within the country in the context of transformation of the country.
Well noted. So
the noisemakers, those who cannot fit in the system, will fall by the wayside. And these are not the first. Others will, because the big agenda of the country is big. It will work, and I don't think the president will be dissuaded to engage in political tough wars, but will focus on the transformation agenda that he promised the people.
Okay. Onesimus, as you come in, your brief reaction to the statements targeting these two individuals, because they come from a man who once served as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And if you hear him mentioning that allegedly Farouk Kibet is perhaps picking up money in order to plan his itinerary when he was in the DP's office, what comes to mind?
Thank you once again. Based on the headline and your good question, one, how you judge someone is by how consistent they are. For instance, the former MP here is very consistent to talk about government because he's a job seeker. The former deputy president has been very consistent. While in office, I attended function that he said they are friends of the president. They are people around the president that have been trying to instruct me. While deputy president, I think he can allow me to. He can allow me to finish. Okay. You will have your say.
Okay.
I cannot withdraw that because
that is not right.
I will not withdraw that because it is true. You are shortlisted for
but he
several.
feels like you've assassinated his character.
Yes, it's
you
not
know?
right.
So
I don't think we come to the show.
He still remains. He was shortlisted for several positions.
He should be informed.
And that's in the public domain. So
for his information, by the way,
and it's my right.
He said he served in government as a CAS.
Okay.
And,
which is served for 48 hours.
And you're serving
before
in
the
parliament
court order.
courtesy of Kenya Kwanza administration as well, so it doesn't make any difference.
Fair point. We're here to give value to the audience, so let's come on.
Can you allow me to engage?
I've been in active employment and public service and service to humanity, both locally and internationally for a long time, that I don't die for
I think
jobs.
so. Will allow me to
kindly conclude your
So
statement.
what I'm saying,
yes.
the former deputy president has been very consistent. Before his impeachment, he said they are friends of the president trying to instruct him as deputy president on what to do, where to go, which itinerary. And the names he mentioned are the same names that are in the newspapers today. So he has been consistent. At one point in Kirinyaga, I was in a function, and he said the P of the president cannot instruct me. And he instructs so many other officers in government, and I will have refused as deputy president, elected together with the president. I will not allow him to instruct me. Dennis Itumbi, same issue. And remember, the former deputy president, the second deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, served for 5 years as a member of parliament in the Jubilee Party. The same characters were in the formation at that point. They were still working for the government then. So these are people he has worked with. So Sion was not there. He was in ODM. Later on, he has not been in government. So this is somebody who is talking from an experiential knowledge. They have worked together with them in one way or the other. Now remember, what are these allegations true? Emphatically, yes. There are people who have complained. There are business people who claim they have been asked to produce something so that they can get an appointment. It has been said so. Dennis Itumbi has had several fights with different people in government to an extent that restructuring was done in the PDU to create different offices. And I think now he has one office. I don't know which office he serves. This is not somebody who interacts with head of parastatals and people in different organizations. This is somebody who sits down to create narratives for government. And when the former deputy president or the second deputy president says he's a chief propagandist, there is what he knows. And it has been consistent. Even in the 2+ years of his service, these are statements that he kept saying. And remember, first of all, Farouk Kibet, what is his position? He serves as what?
Well, on paper, he's the president's PA.
Now, what does a PA do? Because if he's a PA, you have a scheme of service. Whatever is said, whatever that newspaper headline says rogue, there's something rogue about those officers. Now, because I would not want to dwell on the specific details, but you only judge somebody because of being consistent. And you can tell before office, when they were in office, after office, this is a statement that he has continued. He can only qualify it more by bringing incidences that could be seen. You have seen even on social media today, John Badi being directed to not use the red carpet to sit on this seat. I've seen members of parliament when they were in Mandera being told, cut your speech, and, he would stand behind them. It is in public domain. There's somebody controlling what is happening there. And remember, there are also members who have resisted. There are also members of parliament who have said no. I hear when members of parliament want to accompany the president, probably Farouk Kibet is the person who calls them. And it is in public domain. You don't need, it is no longer a closed secret. It is open. True, I am from the Kenya Kwanza, and specifically the UDA party, but I don't ascribe to this kind. This is not the kind of company that I keep. And even the Bible says bad company corrupts good morals. I do not keep such friends. So even in the UDA party, there are people who are principled. There are people who, we are not cronies. We do not follow what they say. We are not sycophants. Because, the problem we have specifically with our Kenya Kwanza administration and the UDA party is having a lot of sycophants. People who do things, say things to please people, job seekers, people who do not serve in government and therefore they want to say something so that tomorrow they may be appointed. They would say what is seasonal for that moment. People like JB Muturi will not have a space because when they say what is not fashionable, when they say what is not pleasing in the eyes of their bosses, they will not have that opportunity. And you see, this Kenya can only be changed by people who think from a different prism.
Then tell me this, because in politics, optics equally matters. He raised the point that this is simply the cries of jilted lovers, quote unquote, that the fact that they faced the axe, then that's why they won't come and praise the head of state, their former boss. It's only obvious that they would go out and disparage the image of the head of state. There's a section of Kenyans who might believe this is true.
But it's a lie, and you know that, because he said it before when he was deputy president. I accompanied him to Kirinyaga, a function hosted by the women rep, Jerry Minor. In that function, he said, I as deputy president Rigathi Gachagua will not be instructed by the aide of the president. And the people around the president will not instruct me.
Okay.
I will only be guided, one, by the constitution. I have a duty. I am the chair of the IBEC. He mentioned his responsibilities.
All right.
He also said under the president has transferred certain duties to his office. For instance, the coffee matters. And he said, I will do those duties, but I will not be instructed by people or friends. People who are friends to the president also wanted to instruct him. And I can tell you what he said is nothing less than what that newspaper has written. But sycophants of the president will not accept that. They will tell you no, because they are sycophants. They would want to say the other side of the story. And you see somebody who has served 48 hours in government. What can he tell you about? He never served with these people.
Okay, let's not disparage his character right here. But Sosion, all things said and done, these allegations sort of point to the transactional nature of the government of the day. According to the deputy president, some of these commercial interests are put before the national interest. And we well know of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, all about leadership values and integrity and whatnot. What do you have to say to some of the allegations that have been fronted, ending at the heads of state's door? Talk to us. Yeah.
First, allow me to rebut some of the comments of my brother here, that when we are in the show here talking, we are job seeking. That is far from the truth. That is being mischievous. We come here when we are invited by the media houses to engage in the debates here, and we are not sent by anybody. And for his information, he should be told that I've been in the media space for as long as anybody can remember. So I'm not new, I'm at home. And so we are here to discuss Kenya, and to discuss honestly and effectively. And if you want the truth will unfold. This is not a country of secrecy. This is not a country of mysteries. And as I have stated, the comments, the general remarks, without going into the specifics of JB and Ricky G, are definitely outrageous. And the question is, why didn't they speak about them then? If we talk of consistency, it was very clear that he started speaking, Ricky G started speaking when the impeachment process was building up. Impeachment that had come out twice and was thwarted, but eventually the members of parliament executed it. And it was executed before cameras, before the eyes of Kenyans, at the National Assembly, where all the charges were read, and the victim was allowed to defend himself, and the members of parliament exercised their democratic right. There were 11 counts. Why are we trying to forget that there were 11 counts that was cited in the impeachment, and properly grounded, properly recited, with good public participation across the country? And eventually, we saw what happened at the Senate. Did he not run away at a time when he was supposed to be cross-examined? That's a fact. We saw, and pretended to be in hospital. These are facts. And I think it has reached a time. If you look at Kibaki's Vision 2030, the three pillars, political, economic, and social pillar. The political pillar talks of Kenya graduating to transact politics based on issues, but not personalities. What we are witnessing here is a veiled attempt to try and deface the person of the president, and even stooping so low to attacking junior workers, trying to tell us who does what and what. All officers are vested with authorities.
Okay.
The said officers did not create the 11 offenses against the impeached deputy president. An impeachment is a provision in the Constitution. This is not the first successful impeachment. There will be more. And for me, in a nutshell, I dare say, if anybody has any credible, incriminating criminal information against anyone, you don't need to call the media and make flying statements. Go record a statement and then call the media to communicate to Kenyans. That is when we'll believe you 30%. That otherwise, the rest will just be political allegations and mere political allegations to try and tilt the political scale, which is not going to work. And I've told you, because all of us, we were in Kenya Kwanza, and we are not in Kenya Kwanza just for the sake of being in Kenya Kwanza. We were in Kenya Kwanza with an agenda. I had deep passion in what would happen in education, and we assisted the president in drafting the charter, which he signed. And most of the flagships have been implemented, including employment of 76,000 teachers. To me, as a labor leader, that is very significant achievement, including recalibration and review of the CBC, with the previous regime refused to look at. And we can talk about many other things. I will be a happy person and a happy Kenyan to see progress made in agriculture, and to see enhanced production within the agricultural sector, value addition of agricultural goods, and aggregation of the goods, and Kenyans getting good market. In fact, with the strengthened shilling against the dollar, then we know tea farmers and coffee farmers will be earning more. Those are the things we should be talking about. the business, what Kenyans voted for on the ballot is what should be implemented. There is a time for everything.
Okay.
We are talking about housing. We've seen from the president's visit in Mount Kenya region, the actualization of the housing projects and even decent infrastructure markets. And that is happening across the country. And that is why the president needs many hands on deck to ensure that all these are delivered. Some of us who have served this country in the most serious positions would like to see the country transformed and the livelihood of the people of Kenya improved. And of course, we've been talking about this country operating at a poverty index of 48%. We would like to see it reduced and probably to 1 digit one day. That can only be done by some of us committing to talk seriously about what needs to be done. And that should not be construed that we are looking for jobs. If jobs come up, it is a right of everybody to apply, including you and all of you. It's a right. And if you get it, fine. But I think we have a duty to ensure that we do what brought us to positions of responsibility for now, to deliver to Kenyans. And as for politics, it will happen on one day in August 2027, the first Tuesday. And it will happen between 6 a.m. in the morning and up to 5 p.m.
That's
and in
voting.
some places into the night.
Okay.
Kenyans will vote.
All right.
And if we talk about, if we engage in political fishing expedition and confusion of Kenyans and transacting politics of exclusion, including, if we talk about his two friends, they are speaking from nowhere except from one village in the country. Kenya is not made of one village.
No, but you can't water it down. This is the former legal advisor. So that office holds...
about people talking from... Yes, you can be the former legal advisor and anybody. But then you cannot be speaking lazily from one village of the country while the president is traversing the country, preaching politics of inclusivity and mobilizing development in all regions of the country. And I think... practically speaking, and from my own political experience of many years and having worked with almost all the presidents of this country except Jomo Kenyatta, I think President William Ruto is a man on a mission. I'm convinced, and he's not going to get distracted by those who have fallen by the wayside, and those will also fall by the wayside. Others will fall if we don't team up and to support the cause and the agenda of the president for now. And anybody who wants to be president, any group who wants to form a coalition and prepare for 2027 are free to do so.
It's a democratic country.
It's a democratic country.
Okay.
But
I'll ask to take a short break.
But while that is being done,
it
is common knowledge that wherever the president is going across the country is not political visit, but it is mobilization for development. And remember, when the president was developing the Charter of Kenya Kwanza, there were forums across all the counties where deliberations were done and charters developed for those particular counties, and the president signed those charters. And there are unique development activities in all the counties, and that requires the president to personally supervise and mobilize people and leadership and all government infrastructure to fall in place and ensure that they are delivered. We have 5 years to deliver to the people of Kenya. And those who know that this will be delivered are working very hard to try and pull down all these successes. But it is not going to be possible. Kenyans will feel it. There's a lot of progress in agriculture, a lot of progress in ICT infrastructure, a lot of progress in housing, a lot of progress in UHC.
We'll be back in a few.
There will be many more.
Definitely. We'll be back in a few because you've raised a couple of issues, perhaps showing some of the successes of the Kenya Kwanza government, and we'll be back to interrogate them with my guests right here in studio. Allow us to take a short break. The bills have to be paid. We'll be back in a few. Welcome back to KTN Prime. We continue with our deliberations right here in studio. I'm joined by Onesmus Ngongoyo, who is the Member of Parliament for Kajiado North, and Wilson Sosion, former nominated Member of Parliament. We're just evaluating some of the emerging issues around the political space, equally touching on governance. So thanks for your patience, gentlemen. Onesmus, as we continue with this conversation, there were damning revelations, as we've mentioned time and time again. And of course, the blaming finger was squarely on the head of state. What do you make of the commercial interest? Same question I asked him. The commercial interest being put before national interests. Those were the claims by the former deputy president, as he mentioned that this transactional nature in the Kenya Kwanza government is not to the benefit of Kenyans.
First of all, I am part of the people who supported the Kenya Kwanza administration. We believed in an agenda. We agreed on what to do. But I think, we chose the wrong captain. We chose the wrong person for the job.
Why is this?
President William Ruto, in our engagements, we had a number of issues that we had agreed. And I have been an elected leader for a while. Unlike Sosion, I have been elected. I served as an MCA for the last 10 years. I've also been a member of parliament. The true test of a political leader is commitment to what you say. Now, we committed, for instance, on health, and I will show you how much conflict of interest that we talked about during the reign of Uhuru Kenyatta, I think is now at 200%. For instance, on the health issue, first of all, the health system of this country has collapsed. Has literally collapsed. Nothing is working. Yeah. I have a message in my phone right now. Somebody telling me they need 200,000 because SHA will not be able to pay them for their surgery. With NHIF, at least, the least they would do, maybe they would meet you halfway. And this is consistent. Some of my staff, my own staff, in my office, who are paid by the Parliamentary Service Commission, have a problem accessing healthcare.
And they're registered, they contribute monthly.
Police officers attached to very high-ranking people in this republic, they cannot access the healthcare. One of the best healthcare programs was the police, the teachers. All my teachers keep sending me messages because health has failed. But I want to tell you this. There is a system, instead of GOK collecting money, and remember it has two components. There is the deduction that you get from me and yourself. There is what GOK should provide. Combined, you have the universal health care. The first thing they did, they charged that money to a system that was paid for 104 billion. And listen to me, you did not need a system. You needed, because the NHIF was working, all you needed to do is to continue. And if you needed to upgrade, if you needed, because it's services you are meant to accrue.
But NHIF had its flaws. We agree, right?
But they were not as what we have today. Listen to me, 80% of contributors do not get services. Now, we are the ones who campaign for this government. We have not kept our words. I am a Kenya Kwanza MP, a UDA elected member of parliament. We have not kept our words. On the issue of the new, on education, and Sosion should know this better, we had the worst, CBC. Let me tell you today, I have about several primary schools in my constituency, GOK. There are students who are yet to see what a laboratory is. We committed that we shall build laboratories. We have done some with NGCDF. Some constituencies are far and wide, having 100 schools. NGCDF budget for 2 years cannot do laboratories. There are children who are doing a science class in grade 9. They have never seen any equipment that is there in a laboratory. You want to subject them to an assessment when they have not touched anything. And even teachers, he's talked about 76,000. We committed as Kenya Kwanza, we'll do 120,000 in our first 2 years. In our first 2 years, we committed 120,000. This was to bridge, first of all, the gap that was there, and then specialize. Because in sciences, we did not have the teachers. Remember, grades 7, 8, and 9 are doing the science class, which is compulsory before they get into their pathways. Now, listen, I've told you about health, I've told you about education. The new funding model is a hoax. They've now returned to the old one. It is not working. They tried it, it is not working. They are back to the old one. Students are getting messages.
But there's an appeal. Okay.
The issue of the court, that notwithstanding, they had already diverted to the old one because what they had proposed is not working. Just because you have a salary, you're told to pay 800,000 in a semester for a child doing medicine. You're a primary school teacher, secondary school teacher, earning about 50,000, earning about 30,000, just because you have two parents, you're banded into a place where you pay like a member of parliament. Not fair. You see, education and access to education is the responsibility of government. And what I can tell you, President William Ruto could be a good campaigner. He could be a good, he can talk a lot. Just like Sosion, he can talk a lot. But let me tell you, working does not need a lot of talking. You need practical solutions. President Kibaki, when he said let us have free primary education, he did not have to go and talk about the free primary education on top of the car. He went and sat down, came up with a strategy. How do I implement free primary education? And free primary education is real, up to date.
Aren't you throwing the baby with the bathwater? Is there no good that the president has done?
You cannot. Basic, principles of introducing new things. You cannot do everything at a go. You do in phases. President Uhuru Kenyatta, just before leaving government, and I was serving in the county government, took 4 counties, Isiolo, Machakos, Nairobi, and Kisumu. UHC. And he wanted to test whether UHC will work. And when he tried it, there was a big problem, especially on that issue of approval. That is where the problem was.
Okay.
And when you look at the report that they wrote, they went back to look at how they would have an efficient system. Now, you come here and say that fertilizer is working. Which fertilizer? We're in a planting season. I come from Kajiado North. We are serious farmers of onions, potatoes. In the other side of Loitoktok. In Magadi, they do the same. There is no access to fertilizer as we talk right now.
But we've seen lines at NCPB stores.
Because there's a problem. And remember,
but they're accessing.
Even in the numbers.
Okay.
You see, before.
Before. Allow me to cut you short. We just need to fix an in-house issue briefly. So, Sosion, as you come in, he's mentioned a raft of issues, but I'd like you to pin on the matters of education. Because not too long ago, we heard of allegations by a member of parliament that some of these TSC appointment letters are being picked at State House. This is a sector that is close to your heart. Are these mere allegations by someone who is in the president's camp?
One item that is talked about that is more elected, and I'm not elected. I think it is good he gets to know that I have been popularly elected across the Republic by teachers across the board, and probably in his own constituency are more popular than him. You should know that. That one is a fact that exists. It is a fact that exists. And then straight to your issue. When we come to education and what was agreed and negotiated by the Kenya Kwanza was one, to review the CBC, both in terms of structure and content. That was done through Presidential Working Party. And that saw domiciling grades 7, 8, and 9 in the current primary schools. And that was meant to overcome barriers of cost that would have been transferred to households in terms of fee structures that could have come as these students moved into secondary schools to cause more congestion than the underage. And the general global policy through universal access to education of domiciling at least up to grade 9 closer to the households makes education accessible at zero cost to the household. As to the aspects of dealing with the quality in terms of infrastructure and supply of teachers is not an event, it is a process. and it is ongoing, and that is a fact, and it is known, and there are reports about it. And to me, I support that position very strongly because I raised issues about the manner in which CBC was being rolled out. That is one. Two, review CBC in terms of content. And in JS, students were supposed to do 14 subjects, but they were downgraded down to 9. That is a lot of rationalization. What else do you need to do? And that was reviewed within the context of UNESCO. Okay. It was not done political. Education is not a political item that you can do what you want to do in a reckless manner. It must be done professionally. And then number 3, other pieces of legislation that are going to support education in terms of implementation of programs, that is, include cessation of paper and amendment of pieces of legislation, I am sure will end up in Parliament soon, and he may need to endorse. And then lastly, number 4, when it comes to employment of teachers, the President committed, and Kenya Kwanza, to employ 116,000. That was a gap within 2 years. But due to constraint of resources, and doing 76,000, which government has ever done that? I led strikes in 2011, myself, and we only achieved 18,000.
Okay.
But this one has been achieved without firing a bullet and without any agitation to employ 76,000. And that is work in progress. That will get to 116 from labor perspective.
But has the process been above par?
That is great achievement. As to whether it has been above board or not, the buck stops squarely at the Teacher Service Commission, because Teacher Service Commission is under Chapter 15 of the Constitution, is an independent constitutional commission that is facilitated to execute its mandate. If there is anything wrong about the approach to recruitment of teachers, then the buck stops at TSC, and Parliament should hold TSC to account where there are issues of irregularities in employment, irregularities in promotion. Let me come to the funding model, university funding model, and I support it wholeheartedly. It speaks to the bottom up. When you look at Band 1 are students from the poorest household who would enjoy 95% of funding from both scholarships and higher education loans board. And when you look at enhancing of help funding from 13 billion to 30 billion, that is real money. And enhancing funding of universities to 84 billion. Regardless of contestations that are in court, it is normal for litigations in Kenya. But Mheshimiwa here should know that the Court of Appeal has overturned that lower court judgment, and therefore the new funding model is being implemented, and it provides equity, and it ensures that children from poor households in higher education are fully funded. The only thing we probably need to do is to do more intensive civic education about the funding model, improve the MTI testing instrument, and ensure that the funding model is conducted together with the career guidance in schools at the school level. We will have no problem. It is going to work, and it has been simulated, and it will work. But when you come to the healthcare system, because we must talk about it also. I have worked in that space. I was the vice chair NHIF at some point, and I served at that board. And I midwife the teachers' medical scheme, which was not working at NHIF, but we took it to TSC, and it is working. The universal health coverage has been something that very previous presidents attempted to roll out. Kibaki tried to roll out through Charity Ngilu as a minister, but there was no money to do it. He tried again after the Constitution of Kenya 2010, but it was not possible to roll it out because of lack of funds and logistical infrastructure. Uhuru Kenyatta tried different aspects, but William Ruto has taken it head on. The UHC means all citizens must be treated and be covered. And the fact of the matter is, since the rollout in October last year, if you check, over 16 billion shillings has been spent at level 5 and 6. Those are admission cases, and they're real cases, and they're known, and they're Kenyans. And at the primary health care facility, close to 2 billion shillings close to 2 billion shillings has been spent at the primary healthcare facility. And the primary healthcare facility does not require any contribution. It's not subject to contribution. It is paid for by the state. That means healthcare facilities should have medicine and doctors and personnel. That is the ideal situation. And then what has never been covered by insurers, the business people in this country, the critical illnesses and emergency cases. The ICU has risen from 4,000 to 28,000 per day. That is very significant. And for the first time, all dialysis patients, which were not covered by any insurance, are receiving actually dialysis. Those are real cases. And for anybody to talk about the success of UHC, you must be sick. If you check, because when we introduce the scheme among teachers, those who are loud and criticizing are those who are not sick. But we realize those who are sick and were going for treatment were appreciating the services.
Okay.
And those who are talking and criticizing the healthcare and talking about receiving messages have not been sick, and they don't know what sick people experience. As we are talking in this show,
but they're receiving messages from sick people.
No. There are sick patients who are attending those facilities. And I dare say the UHC is not going to work in a day. It is not an event. It's a process. There are many things to be fixed.
Okay.
There are things to be put in place.
All right.
But you know, corruption fights back. If you look at all these pillars, from agriculture, those who are fighting back are cartels who have been benefiting. When you look at housing, those who are going to lose business in the real estate are the ones who are fighting. When you look at the healthcare, those who had occupied strategic artery position of pilfering NHIF money out of NHIF are the ones who are making noise. It has come a time that we expose the cartels and make sure that what truly Kenyans woke up to vote for on 9th of August are fully delivered in the fullness of time early enough, so that then we deal with the challenges. Let's talk about supporting all these programs to be implemented. They don't belong to President William Ruto as a person. Kenyans. A sick patient is a Kenyan, anywhere in Kenya. And a young Kenyan entering employment requiring a housing is a young Kenyan.
Fair point.
And so a lot of things are falling in place, and all we need to do to be fair is to support the programs. Let us separate, isolate politics from the noble programs of the state. And that is why we still believe Kenya can be transformed. It will be transformed by Kenyans. It will be transformed by the leadership that is in office. And
away
the
from
president
the issues
is leading that.
Away from the issues, because we've talked about some of the issues that are facing Kenyans, access to affordable healthcare, education sector, and whatnot. Back to politics, because I understand Rigathi Gachagua is supposed to launch a party next month in May. Will it be of any political consequence, especially at the national level? Because this is a man who's closely been associated with the Mount Kenya region. You come from Kajiado and you're closely associated with the former deputy president, I beg your pardon. Will this be a national party? What steps are you making to ensure it will be one?
I want to tell you that true. Rigathi Gachagua will be launching a new vehicle, a political party that we believe will usher Kenya into a different dispensation. Of course, you cannot register a political party that is from a region. It must be a national. One qualification of registering a political party is that it must be a national political party. And so Rigathi Gachagua, in his right to association, will register a political party, or has registered a political party. And he will be launching it in the month of May, a vehicle that we believe will be used to usher in a different dispensation and era of Kenyan politics. The issues we are talking about, of course, the failed health system, the education system, the conflict of interest by the president and his cronies, the failing, the unfulfilled promises by the president must have a cure. And one of the cures is that Ruto must go. And he must go in a constitutional manner in 2027. And one of the constitution means to take him home is the political party. Is it national? You cannot register a party that is not national. So it has to be national. Where I come from, like he has said, the chair will come from there.
Yeah, okay.
For now, we are in UDA. But our future will not be in unfulfilled promises. Our future going forward, as people come from Kajiado, and by the way, I'm not from the central region. My region will not board into lies. Following a president of lies, we will not do it. Our association, you know, you can tell, from our friends, you can tell where our future will be. Of course, we contributed so much to the establishment of the UDA party. But it is so easy. It's not difficult. Our people feel this is not the right government. We have the wrong steering. We have the wrong person on the steering, and therefore we have to cure such problems. Looking at it from where I sit, of course the president and his sycophants from Mount Kenya and other regions, they will go on, you know, and they have their right. We will meet in the contest. We will not be, what we are sure is that we will not be pulling on the same direction. Because we cannot pull in the direction of lying to Kenyans. And you know the beauty is that Kenyans are saying things are not working. And you cannot tell Kenyans that it is working. They should feel, they should see things working. You didn't need to tell anybody that the economy is doing well during Kibaki's tenure, because they can see the economy is working. They feel it. They are actually indicators of an economy growing, are not things you come and say in a TV station. It should be evident. You know, you should see that employment has gone from this level. The issue of saying that we are taking vijana to, so that young people can work.
As you finalize,
as a finalize. That young people are going to work as masons, as watu ya mkono, as plumbers, you know, and you're saying that is how you grow economy. You know, which economy grows like that? It must be consistent everywhere. Let me tell you, we said kazi ni kazi because there are people probably who are working in the markets, and probably that is where they can thrive. But listen, an economy grows all round. There is no economy grows in one sector. And let me tell you, we are producing more children in our universities that are competent, that are qualified in different fields, but we are not able to absorb them. That is where the Kenyan problem is going to be.
And that's a fact.
And that is where and for your information, I cannot be a sycophant of the president. Where he has gone wrong, we have told him. Unlike Sosion, he will come and sing for you everything here. But I can tell you, he's just one of those people who want to talk and please the president.
Okay, let's not attack him yet again. Sosion, final remarks as we conclude.
No, I think final remarks that I'll make. We talk about the economy improving. It is not making poetic phrases about the economy having failed or not. It is real data. 2022, the inflation was at 9%, but now it's at 3.2%. It is stable. Data by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Economic growth is well past 5%, 5.4%, and is ranked as, our economy is ranked as overall number 29, fastest growing in the world. The shilling against the dollar is stable, and that is going to benefit exporters of goods like tea farmers, coffee farmers, and others who are exporting. That is a fact for sure. Those are real data. The country has been taken out of the debt distress. And so the macroeconomic elements have been brought under control. And that is not easy. So therefore, the economy is falling in place. And if you look at it in terms of the key pillars, is some work not working very well in agriculture? If now we are producing excess sugar to the extent that importation licenses have been revoked and we can easily export sugar as Kenya, then it's an indicator that we are a robustly productive country. And the key agenda of Kenya Kwanza is to stimulate production, and production beginning in the agricultural sector that is going to supply raw materials to the processing and value addition, those are good ideas. And the economic processing zones are taking shape in the counties. That we really need to midwife our country to deliver. And I think there are indicators from KNBS, not political from Wamunyoro. KNBS is very clear. It is loud.
Okay.
It is not from State House.
Okay.
It is not from anybody. It is not from me. That is data. And I urge anybody who, and in fact, this data, even a blind man can see them without spectacles.
Okay, but I guess the big question would be are these figures being translated to the ordinary Mwananchi? Are they feeling the impact of the growing economy? That's a conversation for another day. Wilson Sosion, we appreciate your input. Thank you so much for your time. Former nominated Member of Parliament, and equally we had the Member of Parliament for Kajiado North, Onesmus Ngogoyo. We equally appreciate your input, and we'll be looking forward to the party launch next month, and we'll do our part as members of the Fourth Estate to keep the viewers to keep our viewers informed. All right, so that's how we finalize. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of Ashley Mazuri and our sign language interpreter, we say thank you, good evening, and good night.